The massive space station floated in the darkness like a giant metal flower. Its metal arms stretched out in all directions, each one bigger than most planets. Bright lights sparkled along its surface, and ships of strange shapes came and went, like busy insects around a hive. This was the Galactic Council Station, the most important place in the known universe. Inside the main meeting hall, hundreds of alien beings sat in rows of seats that curved around a central stage. The room was so big that clouds actually formed near the ceiling. Each alien looked completely different from the others. Some looked like walking crystals that sparkled with their own light. Others had long tentacles instead of arms and legs. A few were just balls of glowing energy that floated in special containers. Today was the yearly meeting where all the smart species in the galaxy got together to talk about important things. They shared new discoveries, made trade deals, and decided which younger species might be ready to join their group. Ambassador Keth Volume stood at the center of the stage. He was one of the crystal people, called Zephyrians. His body looked like it was made of blue glass, and when he moved, light danced through him in pretty patterns. He had been alive for over 3,000 years, which was still young for his people. "My friends," Keth Volume said, his voice ringing like bells, "we come now to the part of our meeting where we discuss new species. Today, I want to show you something quite amusing." The lights in the room got dim, and a giant picture appeared in the air above the stage. It showed a small blue and green planet with white clouds swirling around it. The planet looked peaceful and pretty, like a marble floating in space. "This is the third planet in a system the locals call Sol," Keth Volume continued. "The dominant species calls themselves humans." More pictures appeared in the air. These showed creatures that walked on two legs, had hair on their heads, and wore clothes made of different materials. The humans in the pictures were doing various things, building structures, flying in small metal machines, and looking at the stars through simple telescopes. A sound like wind chimes filled the room. This was how the Zephyrians laughed. Soon other sounds joined in. The tentacled people made gurgling noises, and the energy beings flickered faster. "Look at this," Keth Volume said, pointing to a picture of a human rocket. "They still use chemical explosions to leave their planet. Chemical explosions. Can you imagine?" The laughter got louder. Prime Tentacle Xylointh, who represented the Vortani, raised one of his purple tentacles. "Do they still fight wars over pieces of dirt?" he asked in a voice that sounded like bubbles popping. "Oh yes," Keth Volume replied. "They divide their planet into sections and argue about who owns what. They even build walls to keep each other out." This made everyone laugh even harder. Bright singer Auralin, who was a being of pure light energy, spoke in a voice like singing. "Crystals, how delightful. Do they still need those heavy bodies to survive?" "They do indeed," Keth Volume said. "They cannot exist without their physical forms. They eat solid food, breathe gas, and they actually sleep for hours every day. They waste a third of their lives being unconscious." The alien representatives found this hilarious. Flow Speaker Hydros, who looked like living water in a clear suit, made splashing sounds that meant he was very amused. "And their technology?" he asked. "Quite primitive," Keth Volume answered. "They have only just learned to split atoms. Their computers are made of metals and silicon. They communicate by making sounds with their mouths or by pressing buttons." The laughter reached new levels. Some of the aliens were making sounds that could not be described in any human language. Others were changing colors or shapes to show how funny they thought it all was. "Surely they have not mastered space travel," said Counselor Zixandra, a being that looked like a floating grain surrounded by glowing tentacles. "They have sent a few of their kind to their nearest moon, Kethvalium said with obvious amusement. Using chemical rockets, of course. It took them 3 days to get there. 3 days. For such a short distance. The room erupted again. The noise was so loud that the air itself seemed to shake. What do they do with their time? Asked another representative. They make art, tell stories, play games, Kethvalium replied. They seem to enjoy making up imaginary situations and pretending. They are real. They call it entertainment. How charmingly simple, Aurelin sang. Like children playing with toys. Exactly like children, Kethvalium agreed. They have such short lives, too. Most of them die before they reach 100 of their years. Can you imagine trying to learn anything meaningful in such a brief time? Up in the observation section of the Great Hall, Dr. Alex Carter sat quietly in a chair meant for smaller. Aliens. His legs were too long for it, and he had to scrunch up to fit. He was the only human on the entire station, part of a secret program that most of the galaxy did not know about. Alex had dark hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform that looked plain compared to the fancy clothes and natural beauty of the aliens around him. He had been living on the station for 3 years, studying alien cultures and languages. Most of the aliens treated him like a curious pet or ignored him completely. As he listened to the council members laugh at his people, Alex felt his hands close into fists. Every word stung like a slap. These beings thought they were so much better than humans. They thought humans were stupid and weak and not worth their time. But Alex knew things they did not know. He had seen what humans could really do when they put their minds to it. He had watched human scientists solve problems that stumped alien experts. He had seen human artists create beauty that made even ancient aliens stop and stare. He knew that humans had something special, something these proud creatures did not understand. The laughter continued as more pictures appeared in the air. Humans working in fields, humans building cities, humans teaching their children. To the aliens, it all looked primitive and amusing. I move that we classify this species as primitive and schedule them for re-evaluation in 5,000 years, Kethvalium announced. Perhaps by then they will have learned to use proper technology. Seconded, said multiple voices around the room. All in favor? Kethvalium asked. Hundreds of alien hands, tentacles, appendages, and energy pulses showed agreement. The decision was made without any real discussion. Alex. Carter sat in his too small chair and watched his entire species get dismissed like they were nothing. The aliens were still chuckling as they moved on to the next topic. They had no idea that their biggest mistake was not taking humans seriously. But Alex knew better. He knew that humans were not just clever animals playing with rocks and fire. They were something much more dangerous than that. They were survivors who never gave up, innovators who found new ways to solve old problems, and fighters who got stronger when people said they could not win. The aliens would learn this lesson soon enough. Alex just hoped that when they did, it would not be too late for them to understand what they had missed. Alex Carter walked through the long hallways of the Galactic Council Station, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. The walls were made of some kind of metal that changed colors as he passed by, shifting from blue to green to purple. He had been living here for 3 years, but the place still felt strange and alien to him, that most of the other beings on the station barely noticed him when he walked by. The tall, elegant Zephyrians would look right through him as if he was invisible. The tentacled Vortani would curl their appendages away from him like he might be dirty. Even the smaller species treated him like he was some kind of unusual pet. That someone had brought aboard, that Alex stopped at a window that looked out into space. Thousands of stars sparkled in the darkness, and he could see ships coming and going from the station. Some of the ships were as big as cities, covered with lights and strange decorations. Others were small and fast, darting between the larger vessels like silver fish. He thought about Earth, so far away that its sun was just another dot of light among the stars. His home planet seemed so small and unimportant compared to this massive station where representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to make decisions that affected billions of lives. Still looking sad, human friend? Alex turned to see Pip floating toward him. Pip was one of the Tinker People, a species that looked like small metallic beings with big eyes and tiny hands. The Tinkers were only about 3 feet tall, and most of the bigger aliens treated them like servants. Pip worked in the maintenance department, fixing things that broke around the station. "Hello, Pip," Alex said with a small smile. "Just thinking about home." "Home is far for both of us," Pip said, settling down on a floating platform that adjusted to his height. "My people live in asteroid fields, very far from here. The big aliens, they think we are only good for fixing their machines." Alex nodded. He had noticed that the Galactic Council seemed to have a strict order of who was important and who was not. The energy beings and the ancient crystal people were at the top. Species like humans and Tinkers were at the bottom. "I saw what happened in the council meeting today," Pip said quietly. "They laughed at your people." "Yes, they did," Alex replied, feeling the anger rise in his chest again. "They think we are stupid because we do not have their fancy technology. But you are not stupid," Pip said. "You learned our language in 6 months. Most aliens take years to do that. You fixed the water system in your quarters using parts that even I had not thought to combine." That was true. When Alex first arrived, the environmental controls in the human quarters kept breaking down. The station's computer systems were designed for alien biology, and they could not figure out how to make the air and water right for a human. Alex had spent weeks studying the station's technical manuals and experimenting with different combinations of equipment until he found a solution that worked. "The big aliens, they think there is only one way to solve problems," Pip continued. "Their way. But you showed me 7 different ways to repair the gravity generator last week." 7 ways? I had only known 2. Alex remembered that day. The artificial gravity in one section of the station had been flickering on and off. The official repair manual said to replace 3 major components, which would have taken days and cost a lot of resources. Alex had suggested simpler fixes using basic tools and spare parts. They had the gravity working again in 2 hours. "My people have a saying," Pip said. "The tree that bends does not break in the storm." Maybe your people are like that tree. They walked together toward the maintenance section where Pip worked. The area was full of humming machines and blinking lights. Dozens of small tinker workers moved around, checking systems and fixing problems. They all seemed busy and focused, but Alex noticed that none of the important aliens ever came down here. "Pip, can I ask you something?" Alex said. "What do you really think about the council?" Pip looked around to make sure no one was listening, then moved closer to Alex. "I think they are very smart about some things and very blind about others. They know how to make amazing machines and beautiful cities. But they do not understand that there are many different kinds of intelligence." Alex was about to reply when an alarm started ringing throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and a voice spoke in the station's main language, announcing some kind of emergency. "What is that?" Alex asked. Pip's big eyes went wide with worry. "Emergency in the outer rim systems. Something is attacking the colonies." They hurried to the nearest information terminal, where holographic displays showed news reports from across the galaxy. Alex could not understand all of the alien languages, but the pictures were clear enough. Entire planets were going dark. Space stations were disappearing. Something was moving through the galaxy, destroying everything in its path. The reports called it the Void Swarm. The images showed dark, shapeless creatures that seemed to absorb light and energy. Wherever they went, technology stopped working, and civilizations went silent. The swarm was moving fast, consuming everything it encountered. "How terrible," Pip whispered. "Look, they destroyed the Kepler colonies. Millions of people live there." Alex studied the tactical displays that showed the swarm's movement. It was heading toward the core systems of galactic civilization, including Earth. According to the projections, it would reach human space in less than 6 months. Over the next few days, the station filled with panic and activity. Military commanders arrived from across the galaxy to plan a defense. Scientists worked around the clock to understand what the Void Swarm was and how to fight it. The greatest minds in known space focused all their attention on the problem. Alex watched the meetings from the observation galleries, but he was not allowed to participate. When he tried to offer suggestions based on human military history, the guards politely but firmly told him to leave. This was a matter for advanced civilizations to handle. But as Alex listened to the debates and discussions, he began to notice something troubling. All of the proposed solutions followed the same basic pattern. The aliens wanted to fight the swarm with more advanced technology, more powerful energy weapons, more sophisticated defense systems. The Zephyrians suggested building massive crystal barriers that could block the swarm's advance. The Vortani proposed biological weapons designed to disrupt the creature's life processes. The energy beings offered to merge their consciousness with the swarm to understand its goals. Every solution was elegant, sophisticated, and based on the same thinking that had made these species so successful. But Alex had a growing feeling that conventional thinking would not work against this enemy. Late at night, Alex would sit in his quarters and study the reports about the Void Swarm. He read about how it adapted to every countermeasure, how it learned from each encounter, and became stronger. The more he learned, the more he realized that the galaxy's greatest strength might also be its greatest weakness. These advanced aliens had spent thousands of years perfecting their technologies and their ways of thinking. They had become incredibly sophisticated, but they had also become predictable. They approached every problem the same way, using the same basic assumptions about how the universe worked. But humans were different. Humans had spent their entire history fighting enemies that were bigger, stronger, and better equipped than they were. They had learned to survive by being unpredictable, by adapting quickly, by finding solutions that no one else had thought of. As Alex lay in his bed, listening to the hum of the station's machinery, he began to form an idea. It was a crazy idea, the kind that the aliens would probably laugh at. But it might be the only hope the galaxy had. The question was whether anyone would listen to a human before it was too late. The Void Swarm moved through space like a dark storm cloud, but one that ate light instead of carrying rain. Alex Carter stood in the observation deck, watching the latest reports flash across the holographic displays. 3 more star systems had gone silent in the past week. The swarm was getting closer to the galaxy's core worlds, and nothing seemed able to stop it. In the main council chamber below, the greatest military minds from dozens of species worked day and night. Alex could see them through the transparent floor, tiny figures moving around massive tactical displays. They had been meeting for 2 weeks straight, and they looked tired and frustrated. "Any word from the defense fleet?" Pip asked, floating up beside Alex on his maintenance platform. "The Andromedian Third Fleet tried to stop them yesterday," Alex replied, pointing to a red marker on the display. 27 ships, all equipped with the most advanced energy weapons in the galaxy. The swarm absorbed their attacks and destroyed half the fleet in minutes. Pip's large eyes reflected the blue light from the displays. "My cousin was on one of those ships. She worked in engineering." Alex put his hand on Pip's small shoulder. "I am sorry." The 2 friends stood in silence for a moment, watching the tactical projections that showed the swarm's path. At its current speed, it would reach the Council Station in less than a month. Earth was directly in its path, only 3 weeks away from contact. What are they planning down there? Pip asked, looking at the busy council members below. The same things they have been planning for weeks, Alex said with frustration in his voice. Bigger energy weapons, stronger shields, more sophisticated technology. They keep trying to solve the problem the way they always solve problems. That morning, Alex had watched Ambassador Keth Volume present the latest Zephyrian proposal. They wanted to build giant crystal formations that could project force fields across entire star systems. The technology was beautiful and impressive, but Alex could see the flaw in their thinking. The void swarm fed on energy. Every time someone shot energy weapons at it, the creatures got stronger. Every time someone tried to block it with energy shields, it absorbed the power and grew larger. The aliens were essentially feeding their enemy while trying to fight it. The Vortani have a new idea too, Pip said. They want to create biological weapons that target the swarm's life processes. Alex had heard about that plan as well. They, tentacled Vortani, were masters of biotechnology, and their proposal involved releasing modified viruses into the swarm's path. But Alex had read the reports about the swarm's structure. The creatures did not seem to have biology in any normal sense. They were something else entirely, something that normal biological attacks could not touch. And the Luminari want to merge with the swarm to understand its goals, Alex added. They think if they can communicate with it, they can negotiate. This was perhaps the most dangerous plan of all. The energy beings believed that all intelligence could be reasoned with, but the swarm showed no signs of intelligence as the galaxy understood it. It simply consumed everything in its path, growing stronger and moving on. Trying to merge with it would probably just give it more power. Alex watched as another ship arrived at the station, this one carrying military advisors from the distant Spiral Coalition. More experts with more advanced ideas that would probably fail just like all the others. There has to be a different way, Alex said, more to himself than to Pip. What do you mean? Pip asked. Alex was quiet for a long moment, thinking about everything he had observed over the past few weeks. All of these species are incredibly advanced. They have technologies that humans can barely imagine, but they all think about problems in the same way. How do you mean? They assume that more advanced technology is always better. They assume that energy-based solutions are superior to physical ones. They assume that the swarm thinks and acts like they do. Alex turned to face his small friend. But what if they are wrong about all of that? Pip tilted his head, the way tinkers did when they were trying to understand something complex. What would humans do differently? Alex thought about Earth's history, about all the wars and conflicts his species had fought. Humans had rarely won by having better technology. They won by being unpredictable, by adapting quickly, by using the enemy's strengths against them. Humans have always been the underdogs, Alex said. We have fought enemies that were bigger and stronger than us for thousands of years. We learned that sometimes the best way to fight a superior enemy is not to fight them the way they expect. An alarm started ringing throughout the station. Alex and Pip looked at the displays as new information flashed across the screens. The void swarm had accelerated its approach. Instead of 3 weeks, Earth now had less than 10 days before contact. In the council chamber below, the alien representatives moved into emergency session. Alex could see the panic in their movements. Even from this distance, their careful plans and sophisticated strategies were running out of time. I have to do something, Alex said suddenly. What can you do? Pip asked. They will not listen to you. Maybe not, Alex replied, but I have to try. He left the observation deck and made his way through the station's corridors toward the council chamber. As he walked, his mind raced with ideas. What he was thinking was crazy, but it might be the only chance the galaxy had. Alex had been studying the swarm's behavior for weeks, and he had noticed patterns that the alien experts seemed to miss. The creatures always attacked the most advanced. Technology first. They seemed drawn to high-energy systems and sophisticated defenses. But they ignored simpler technology, the kind that the aliens considered primitive. When Alex reached the council chamber, the guards at the door looked at him with surprise. Humans were not allowed in emergency sessions. This was a meeting for advanced species only. "I need to speak to the council," Alex said. "Impossible," the guard replied, a tall being covered in silver scales. "This session is restricted." "The galaxy is about to be destroyed," Alex said firmly. "I think I know how to stop it." The guard laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "You? A primitive human? The greatest minds in the galaxy are working on this problem. And they are failing," Alex shot back. "Every plan they make fails because they all think the same way. Maybe it is time to try thinking differently." The guard was about to respond when Ambassador Keth Volume appeared in the doorway. The crystal being looked tired, and his usual bright glow seemed dimmed. "What is this disturbance?" Keth Volume asked. "The human wants to address the council," the guard explained with obvious amusement. Keth Volume looked at Alex for a long moment. "This is not the time for games, Dr. Carter. We are facing the greatest crisis in galactic history." "I know," Alex said, "and I think I can help. You?" Kethval's crystalline features showed something between surprise and irritation. What could a human possibly contribute to this situation? Alex took a deep breath. This was his moment. If he could not convince them to listen now, Earth and countless other worlds would be destroyed. "Everything you have tried has failed because you are fighting the swarm the way you fight everything else," Alex said. "With advanced technology, energy weapons, and sophisticated strategies. But the swarm feeds on that kind of technology. You are making it stronger, and you have a better idea?" Keth Volume asked with obvious skepticism. "Yes," Alex said simply. "I do." For the first time since the crisis began, the Crystal Ambassador looked genuinely interested. Around the galaxy, worlds were going dark and civilizations were falling silent. The advanced species with their superior technology were out of options. Maybe it was time to listen to the primitive human after all. Alex Carter walked into the council chamber behind Ambassador Keth Volume. The massive room was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, all looking exhausted and worried. The air buzzed with tension as dozens of alien languages mixed together in urgent conversations. The holographic displays around the room showed the same terrible news. The Void Swarm had destroyed 2 more colonies overnight. The dark creatures were now only 5 days away from Earth, and the other core worlds of the galaxy. Alex felt hundreds of alien eyes turn toward him as he entered. Some looked curious, others annoyed. Most just looked confused about why a human was in their emergency meeting. "Council members," Keth Volume announced, his crystal voice cutting through the noise. "Dr. Alex Carter has requested to address us. He claims to have a solution to our crisis." A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. Alex heard several aliens make sounds that he knew were laughter. Prime Tentacle Xyloanth waved his purple appendages dismissively. "Surely this is not the time for entertainment," Xyloanth gurgled. "We have serious work to do." "Let him speak," said a new voice. It belonged to Commander Vextrol, a military leader from the Outer Rim Defense Force. She was one of the few aliens who had ever treated Alex with respect. "We have tried everything else. What harm could it do?" Keth Volume gestured toward the center of the chamber. Very well. Dr. Carter, you have 5 minutes. Alex walked to the speaking platform, his heart pounding. Around him, the greatest minds in the galaxy waited to hear what a primitive human could possibly suggest. The weight of billions of lives pressed down on his shoulders. You have all been trying to fight the Void Swarm with your most advanced technology. Alex began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. Energy weapons, force fields, biological attacks, consciousness manipulation. Every approach has failed. We are aware of this, Right Singer Oralin sang impatiently. What is your point? My point is that you are feeding the enemy, Alex said simply. The swarm grows stronger every time you use energy-based attacks against it. You are giving it exactly what it wants. Several aliens started to object, but Alex continued quickly. On my world, we have a saying, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. You need to stop using the tools that make the swarm stronger. And what do you suggest instead? Asked Flow Speaker Hydros, his watery form rippling with skepticism. Alex took a deep breath. Physical attacks, kinetic weapons, simple mechanical systems that do not rely on energy the swarm can absorb. The chamber erupted in surprised laughter. The idea seemed ridiculous to beings who had moved beyond such primitive methods thousands of years ago. You want us to throw rocks at them? Zeloanth asked, his tentacles wiggling with amusement. Not rocks, Alex replied calmly. Accelerated mass projectiles. Dense metal slugs fired at very high speeds. The swarm feeds on energy, but it cannot eat momentum. Preposterous, declared Counselor Zixandra, her brain tentacles flashing with irritation. We abandoned such crude methods millennia ago. And that is why you are losing, Alex said, his voice growing stronger. You have become so advanced that you have forgotten how to be simple. The swarm adapts to your sophisticated attacks because they follow predictable patterns. But it cannot adapt to something it has never encountered before. Alex activated his personal datapad and projected tactical diagrams into the air above the platform. They showed human ship designs that combined alien technology with human engineering principles. These are the ships my people have been building since we made contact with your civilization, Alex explained. They use hybrid technology that can operate even when their main power systems are drained. If the energy systems fail, they fall. Back on mechanical and chemical backups. Commander Vextrol leaned forward, studying the diagrams with interest. These designs are quite unusual. Your ships can function without main power? Yes, Alex nodded. Human technology has always been about redundancy and adaptation. We design systems that can work even when everything goes wrong. But how would this help against the swarm? Asked another military commander. Alex pulled up recordings of the swarm's attacks, analyzing them frame by frame. Look at how the creatures behave. They always target the most sophisticated systems first. They ignore simple technology because it does not provide the energy they need. That gives us an opportunity. He showed them his tactical plan. It involved using human ships as the spearhead of a coordinated attack, but not in the way the aliens expected. Instead of trying to destroy the swarm directly, the plan focused on disrupting its ability to feed and coordinate. The swarm acts like a single organism because the creatures share energy and information, Alex explained. But what if we could break those connections? What if we could force them to act as individuals instead of as a unified force? How? Kethvolume asked, and Alex noticed that the crystal being was no longer laughing. By attacking their communication network with weapons. They cannot absorb, Alex replied. Kinetic projectiles designed to physically disrupt their formations. Chemical explosives that create barriers they cannot cross. Simple electromagnetic pulses that interfere with their coordination without providing usable energy. The chamber fell silent as the aliens considered this approach. It was so different from their usual methods that many of them had trouble understanding it. "Even if your theory is correct," right singer Ori Len sang slowly, "do you have ships capable of such an attack?" "They are already on their way," Alex said with a small smile. As if summoned by his words, new signals appeared on the chamber's displays. A fleet of human ships had just emerged from hyperspace near the station. They were smaller than the massive alien vessels, and their designs looked strange and primitive to alien eyes. Captain Ryan Brooks appeared on the main communication screen. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and steady eyes that had seen many battles. "Dr. Carter," Brooks said with a nod, "we received your message. The Earth Defense Fleet is ready to implement your plan." The alien representatives looked at each other in surprise. They had not realized that humans had developed faster-than-light travel, much less assembled a military fleet. "How many ships?" Commander Vextrol asked. 57 vessels, Brooks replied. "Not large by your standards, but they are designed for the mission Dr. Carter described. We can operate without main power, fight using kinetic weapons, and coordinate through secure communication networks that do not emit the energy signatures the swarm feeds on." Alex looked around the chamber at the alien faces. Some still showed skepticism, but he could see hope beginning to replace despair in their expressions. "The swarm will reach the core worlds in 3 days," Alex said. "You can spend that time building more energy weapons that will make it stronger, or you can trust a primitive human species to try something different." Ambassador Keth Volume was quiet for a long moment, his crystal form flickering with inner light as he considered the options. Finally, he spoke. "Dr. Carter, your plan violates every principle of modern warfare. It goes against thousands of years of military development." He paused, and Alex's heart sank. Then Keth Volume continued, "Which may be exactly what we need. The Council grants you permission to coordinate our defense." As alarms began ringing throughout the station and ships moved into position, Alex felt the weight of the galaxy's hope settling on his shoulders. In less than 3 days, they would know if human thinking could save civilizations that had considered themselves far superior. The laughter had stopped. Now it was time to see if the humans could make the galaxy smile again.